This is an SABC News presentation.
Hello, masipotise mawethu emakhaya nakwindaweni bukeleni kuzo. Welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. We are coming to you live on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Igama lami kaloku Sisanda Jonas na njengesiqhelo mawethu ekuhambeni kwexesha apha enkqubeni yethu siza kunivulela iminxeba ukuba nani nithabatha inxaxheba. Inombolo zethu apha estudio zithi 011 714 6918 okanye 714 6919. Ningasithumelela ke ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za okanye ke ninxibelelane nathi kwi-Facebook page yethu ethi Yilungelo Lakho. Alternatively, ungasithumelela ke ne-tweet ku @yilungelo. Proudly, South Africa is calling on consumers to buy local products and use local service providers over the festive season. And this was unveiled at their Buy Local Summit, which was held here in Johannesburg.
Kumele siziqhenye ngezinto ezikhiqizwa kuleli. Imboni ekhiqiza izimpahla kuleli iwumgogodla wesizwe. Uhulumeni ke uhlale ekhuthaza ukukhiqizwa kwezimpahla zakuleli. Lokhu ke uhulumeni uthi ikona ukuzosimamisa umnotho wezwe. Usekela mengameli wezwe uKhalima Motlanthe uthi iNingizimu Afrika akufanele kuphela ikhiqiza izimpahla nezinto eziseqophelweni eliphezulu, kumele ikwazi ukumelana namanye amazwe.
We must be reminded that we live in a global village where goods and services no longer recognize borders, where countries continuously strive to penetrate foreign markets to sell their products.
Uhulumeni unconywe kakhulu kule nkomfa ngokushaya imithetho esiza ukuthi osomabhizinisi basizakale ekutholeni izimpahla nezinsiza zezwe.
Signing of that accord symbolized leadership. Leadership from government in terms of what it is that we can do as South Africans in order to meet the challenges that we face. And that procurement is one of those interventions that we can use in order to stimulate the economy.
Osomabhizinisi akade bekhona nabakhiqiza izimpahla kuleli bathele ingqungquthela ibasizile ukukhangisa amakhono abo.
What we've been trying to find a way to put our products into the market, and then the Proudly South Africa campaign and this summit especially will give us that avenue.
South Africa is becoming very aware of buying local. That's how we're going to create jobs in this country and keep the money here.
Lokho ke ibiyingxenye yomkhankaso wabakwa Proudly SA abakhuthaza ukukhiqizwa kwezimpahla kuleli. Bathe kumele abathengi bazimisele ngokuthenga izimpahla ngoba lokho kunomthelela kokukhandweni kwamathuba emisebenzi. Njengoba ke sesisondele isikhathini sikaKhisimuzi, iProudly SA ithi kumele abathengi bakhuthalele ukuthenga imikhiqizo yakulelizwe. Jobe Sithole, Yilungelo Lakho.
Ukuthongela banzi kaloku ngokubaleka kokuthenga izinto eziveliswe kweli masamkele indwendwe zethu. We are pleased to be joined in the studio by Conrad Bezadenhout. He is the Executive Director at Manufacturing Circle. Samkele Genovusi Sithole, he is the Executive Manager for Human Resource and Administration at Proudly SA. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Manqale ngawe ke Dadu Sithole ngoba ke inqoko yethu yanamhlanje ize ngani as Proudly SA. Usichazele kabanzi ngale nkqubo ye Proudly SA nomsebenzi wenzayo.
Ngiyabuyela Sisanda nababukeli bohlelo lakho. Thanks for having us. Maybe as a way of a background, funa sichaze ukuthi iProudly South African campaign umkhankaso lo wa launch in 2001 after the 1998 presidential job summit ayibizwe uTatu Madiba oyo president ngalosikhathi leso. Ipurpose yale campaign ke ukukhuthaza abantu basemzansi ukuthi let's support local businesses by buying their products, because when you do so there's some positive spin-offs in terms of creating more jobs, because it makes sense that if you buy and support local companies and their products, those companies will be able to grow and develop and then be able to create more job opportunities for local people. But also, it expands and grows the economy of the country. That is what Proudly SA is all about. And at the Bi-Local Summit that we recently have was one of the activities that Proudly SA iyenzayo ukubiza ndawonye osomabhizinisi uhulumeni nabathengi nje bonkana ukuthi asiboniseni ke khona esinalo njengomzansi ukuthi yila ama-product esinawo ekhona emarket asingayini ngaphandle sizinto ezikhona ngaphandle emzansi esingayithenga. It talks to the principle of charity begins at home, basically.
All right, Mr. Bezadenhout, you're from Manufacturing Circle, and you were part and parcel of this Proudly SA Summit. Did you attend it?
Yes, we did. The Manufacturing Circle has been cooperating with Proudly South African campaign for some time now. We have had some joint events last year. And I'm again working together this year to promote the idea of buying goods that are manufactured in South Africa. The Manufacturing Circle is an organization currently with a membership of about 42 of our larger manufacturers in the country. The organization is still expanding, but we really originated about 5 years ago in response to the need for there to be a very specific voice that speaks on behalf of manufacturers that has so far been missing in the broader organized business section. So that's in addition to the business chambers, in addition to BUSA and so on. Yeah. So we speak for the manufacturers and their policy concerns that make it difficult for them to grow manufacturing, to provide more jobs. And we speak to government at a very high level in that regard, and also obviously take part in campaigns to promote the idea that manufacturing is an essential part of the recipe that we need to create the kind of jobs that we need in South Africa.
In South Africa. Babusithole ndibuyele kuwe ndifuna ukuthi inkomfa yenu yesibini lena niyibambayo. In terms of the successes, what can you highlight about what came out of this summit this year?
One of the important things that was achieved as part of the summit was the launching of a database of locally produced goods and services, in which any person who owns a business and a product can be able to enlist that product, so that if any procurer in the market, including government, which were part of the summit, by the way, and I must also emphasize that part of the key constituencies of Proudly SA campaign is government, is business, it's labor movement, and then obviously community, which were part of the summit themselves. So when we launched the database, we're saying to ordinary people who are owning products and businesses that enlist this product, so that there is no excuse from any procurer in the market, including government, to say that we want to go outside the country, the shores of the country, and buy certain products because they're not available within the country. That database is strictly sold to and meant to ensure that it's there to provide this kind of services. And we must acknowledge and recognize the fact that key sponsors and payers of this kind of database was the Economic Development Department. But there are also many other programs which were part of this database and all other activities of Proudly SA, which are sponsored in full by the Department of Trade and Industry. So we're doing a lot around those areas, and I think we're doing very well. The summit went very well because also it afforded an opportunity for small businesses to showcase their different products in terms of exhibition stands and so on and so forth. It indeed shows that there's a lot of talent within the country. We just need to tap on the talent and, most importantly, encourage that we have got more of production, so that this production do not create a reason for us to go outside the boundaries of this country.
Do you share the same sentiments about what came out of this particular summit?
Absolutely. The summit itself was a very extensive event, very well organized event, where there was opportunity for debate, to listen to some successes that have been achieved in some of the municipalities. Tshwane municipality made presentations there. They were also from specific companies from the clothing and textile sector, and then us, the Manufacturing Circle, also made representations, because there are significant challenges that the productive side of our economy, our manufacturers, that they are going through. And it's important to recognize it, because we've lost a lot of jobs over the last 4 years. In our sector, about 300,000 jobs. So if we stand together and we make sure that we buy the very good quality that we manufacture here in South Africa, because of course that's true, our products are great quality. So if we spend in certain cases a little bit more, other cases not more at all, but we make sure that we buy that locally produced product, then we'll know at least that that money goes back into creating jobs, into putting revenue into the government so that they can provide better services. It means that we will sustain ourselves much better and our economy will perform.
I'm glad that you touched on the poor, the good quality. I just said poor quality, but it's amazing how we got to that reputation, you know, as South Africa, because then there's a notion that what is locally produced does not necessarily translate into good quality. Where does this come from?
Well, you know, I think it's perceptions that need to be changed over time. You'll remember years ago when the MIDP, it's the program that the government has to support vehicle manufacturing, when our economy opened. And we started to produce vehicles and we started to export it to Europe. And at that time, if you watched Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear, he would have made jokes about this car that was produced in South Africa. Today, we are recognized for the quality BMW 3 Series, Mercedes-Benz C-Class that we build here. And it's a reputation that we've built up over time. But it's important to understand how that reputation came to be. It's because we had investments from outside into a sector that is being supported by government, where there's enough local demand to make sure that they can produce here and also export to other countries. And that is how it happens.
I think it's not an entirely true assertion and perception that our products which are produced within South Africa of bad quality. I'll tell you and say that in a very confident way that as Proudly SA, we've got more than 1,000 members. These members, for them to qualify to be Proudly SA members, they need to go through four criteria. One of these criteria is quality. And we work with a wide variety of regulatory agencies and bodies in different industries to ensure that we indeed ensure that the quality of these things is there. All right. And we can safely say that there's many of these products. Some of them, they get out of this country and they're in high demand. I'll give you an example. There's one called gut filters. It's a local South African product. It's demanded everywhere else in the country. All right. It's used by big companies and manufacturers cars because it's of good quality. So it is a passage situation that needs to be properly managed.
But before we do that, ithi ke ndinikhumbuze kuba ningathabatha inxaxheba kule inkqubo yethu yanamhlanje ukusitsalela ke umnxeba ku-011-714-6918 okanye ku-714-6919 okanye ke ungasithumelela i-email ku-consumer@sabc okanye usindwendwele kwi-Facebook page yethu Yilungelo Lakho or Twitter, and our Twitter handle is @Yilungelo. And just as a reminder, our SMS line is not working. We do apologize for that. We'll be right back. Masiphinde sinamkele babukeli usabukele inkqubo Yilungelo Lakho. It's Your Right, coming to you live on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Now, to take part in this program, kindly call us on 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. But you can also email your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za okanye ke usindwendwele ku-Facebook page yethu @Yilungelo Lakho, or simply catch up with us on Twitter, and our Twitter handle is @Yilungelo. Ndiyafuna ukuthi ukuze nibe nenkqubo efana nalena Proudly South African, there must have been things you've identified, factors that drive consumers in our country to then want to buy foreign brands more than they do with our local products.
Ufuna sikhulume nje kuqonda ukuthi ukwenza ama products or ukwakhiqiza or produce them locally, it seems to be a bit expensive, and this ultimately leads to locally produced products be a bit expensive in comparison to products which are brought from other countries. There are a number of factors why it becomes expensive and cheaper for countries to bring their products here, because their governments from outside, they would heavily subsidize those products, which is different story entirely within the country. But obviously, with the involvement of government, I'm sure with time we'll be able to find solutions around these things. But what is important is that, remember, the Proudly SA campaign is it's an involuntary kind of campaign. We are persuading people to say that let's make conscious choices when you are faced with two products in the shelf. You want to buy one. One is 10 cents more than the other one. Make that conscious choice and buy that kind of locally produced product, because we know that you're investing in the local economy. What's the point in buying local outside products which are much more cheaper? and taking the very same money that should be investing in their own country, take it outside the country, those kind of things basically. Look, we are trying to educate our consumers because it's part of what we do as Proudly SA, so roll out extensive, consumer awareness campaigns about these kind of things.
All right.
Yes.
We do have a caller, Anonymous from Eduduza. Anonymous, welcome to the program. Hello, Dad. And so
Siyaphila Nkosi kakhulu ukuba ndixhumane nani. Naku ndicela ukubuza ke mntanami kulaba kwa Proudly South Africa. I-government ibona njani inkinga yokuba okanye ingxaki yokuba kube naba bantu babuya ngaphandle like amaPakistani, aba bantu babuya nezinto eziship.
All right, it seems like we've lost Anonymous. You still there? All right, ndicela uphinde apha ekugqibeleni ubusithini?
Ndithi aba bantu sisi babuya ngaphandle like amaPakistan, well basenzela impahla enelebula yethu yalapha eSouth Africa. Well singa-find out njani ukuthi eyalapha eSouth Africa.
All right.
Ingena ngobuninzi siyithenge.
All right.
Or especially emakhayeni.
All right, Nkosi kakhulu ke tata is making a point when how the challenge of getting products that are produced outside. How he wants to know basically how do you know if a product is produced here? All right, and he based the question to you. I don't know if after Babus Tole comes in that you can also answer that. Okay.
The only way you can know which a product in South Africa, made in South Africa. Or I can say safely that all of our products are a logo as a proud South African. Asha continue product within South Africa. But also we must say that we are fighting a big battle, working together with different enforcement agencies to ensure that there is no illegal dumping of goods, foreign goods of bad quality from outside countries, which are produced under very bad conditions, labor conditions, and brought within this country and sold cheaply. At the same time, we are also saying that we're not saying that as South Africa, we are operating as a silo. We are not part of the global economic village. We must understand that there are investments that are coming from other countries in terms of clothing and so on and so forth, which we must understand and accept that we must compete with, and while saying at the same time that let's give preference and a choice to locally produced goods and services. Those, if I can go back to the issues of those goods which are illegally dumped, we work close with SARS and other enforcement agencies to ensure that if we find those kind of goods, they get confiscated and whoever is involved get prosecuted through the laws of the country.
All right.
But I must also add that what is important about these these goods, bad goods, forfeit goods, is that counterfeit goods, is that the monies or the proceeds from those goods go and support very, very bad activities. I'll tell you, for example, there's a lot of illegal cigarettes that get sold on the streets. The monies that the proceeds from those monies of those cigarettes sold on the streets, they go and support different kind of gangsterism, wars, and so on and so forth.
All right,
so
Mr. President, I'll come to you just now. We do have Mbuso from Ekurhuleni. Mbuso amkelekile on the program.
Yebo, kunjani?
Siyaphila tata, kunjani kuwe?
Ngiyaphila. Umbuzo wami nginawo nje ilele ukuthi how do you join the Proudly South Africa? And enye into futhi ukuthi i-manufacturing cycle ingena kanjani into picture? How do they assist abantu manufacturing?
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much, Babu Mbuso. Firstly, he wants to know how to join and also how Manufacturing Circle then assists assists businesses, I suppose, in the manufacturing sector. I'll start with you, Babu Stone.
For any company or product to be registered with Proudly South African, obviously, we'll have to conduct us, we'll give the numbers at the end of the show. But importantly, there's 4 criteria to be met for you to be a Proudly SA member and a product. 1, there should be a certain amount of local content in your product, which makes sense, obviously. 2, it should be, we always insist on this one, it should be of good quality. And thirdly, in the process of producing that good or service, there should be the respect of labor laws, fair labor practice, and lastly, the environmental standards and laws that are in the country should be respected. That is basically the requirements, and you fill the form, and obviously there's a team that deals with that. We'll give the number in terms of how and where to contact us on that.
And your website for
Our
now?
website is www.proudlysa.co.za.
Okay, I'm sure he got that. Mr. Pezzino?
Yes, look, the Manufacturing Circle is what we call a lobbying and advocacy organization. It's an organization that represents the manufacturers in speaking to government about the policy issues that confront them. So now we've spoken, for instance, about the situation with trade and illegal and unfairly incentivized goods that come into the country. So we then take that issue and we go and we have a conversation with the Minister of Trade and Industry. And we're saying, Minister, there is a problem with these goods that are coming into the country. We think there's perhaps work that needs to be done at Customs or at the Trade Administration Commission. And then we have direct meetings with those organizations to explain the challenge, and they explain what they are able to do to solve the challenge. And then we work together to do it.
So far, how have those talks, I suppose, worked in your favor?
Well, you know, we are fortunate that we've got a trade and industry minister that's very supportive of manufacturing. So he has helped us to have the conversation recently with the International Trade Administration Commission, which is an entity of government that looks at the levies, the tariffs that we charge for things that come into the country and that go out of the country. And they have helped us to understand better what are the processes that we need to go through to make tariff applications. So that they've clarified and they helped to make it quicker. And we've also helped them to understand what the challenge is in manufacturing at the moment, so that they know that when they make a decision, it gets connected to jobs that are either created or lost at the end of the day. That helps them to better understand their role and how important it is that they assist us.
All right. Please don't go away. Welcome back. You're still on Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Now, to take part in today's discussion, please call us on 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. You can email your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za. Alternatively, visit our Facebook page, Yilungelo Lakho, or join us on Twitter, and that's @Yilungelo. We talked about concerns, and you straight out said that South Africa has good quality, but other concerns are with prices. I mean, countries like China's products are heavily subsidized. Can they compete with ours in terms of prices? And does it mean when something is locally produced, it will translate to it being cheaper?
Yes, unfortunately, this is where the difficulty comes in, because, you know, if you take an example, which I'm sure the viewers will identify with, we all use frozen potato chips in our homes. Now, they process frozen potato chips in Europe. But in Europe, the farmers are subsidized so heavily that the raw potato lands at the factory gate for a third of the price that we can produce it in South Africa. In China, again, the farm income, the average income for a farmer, 17% of it in 2010 was made up by government subsidies. So they manufacture the frozen potato chips there much cheaper because the raw materials they get cheaper, and then they export it here. It's not of the same quality. It is cheaper. Then our retailers go and they buy those cheap products. They put it on the shelves with the South African products, and the consumers don't always concentrate on quality as much as they concentrate on price, because it is a tough time for everybody. And that's how then the cheaper products from overseas find their way into our homes. But that South African-made product, for the extra money that you pay for it, it means that investment goes into seed laboratories, to farms, it builds infrastructure in the rural areas. And if they are put under too much pressure because of this unfairly incentivized products coming in, then it means that those investments won't happen. It's 35 million rand for a plant upgrade. That doesn't happen. It means that upstream there's no seed laboratory on a farm. There's not people working in that laboratory because it's not being built. And that is how it impacts.
All right, we will talk about the benefits of buying locally, because I suppose that's where that would come in as well. We do have Aphelele and Opuma Episho. Aphelele wamkelekile Nkqubeni? Aphelele? Aphelele ukhona? So we do hope Aphelele will try us again. South Africans are accustomed to a taste of foreign brands. I mean, we're saying buy local, you know, but you're not just saying buy local for just the sake of saying buy local. We want those brands. How do we begin to change that mindset?
It's education that we also do as proudly said, saying that but most importantly, as part of education, is to create awareness of the talent that we have within our country. It could be in the issues of clothing. I'll give you an example. The shirt I'm wearing, it's made local by a local designer. There's a wide range of things that you can get, good quality things, good names. But once we change the mindset and educate our consumers, including government, including business, to understand that sometimes you don't necessarily have to go with the name. You go with all that comes with the package, including quality and so on and so forth. But most importantly, in making that decision, we are making the investment within the country, not for your own sake, but also for the generation to come. Then people start and begin to understand that as much as we are spoiled with the wide range of choice of items to buy, but let's give preference to local products. But also, I need to emphasize that, as proudly say, we're not saying we're promoting economic xenophobia and saying that we are closing out outside countries from participating. We're saying that let's have a wide variety of things and choice. While having that kind of choice, there are times when we really have to make that conscious choice and prefer locally produced goods and services. That's how it is.
All right, we do have Notando from Cape Town. Notando, wamkelekile nkqubeni? Notando? Notando, hi, sisi kunjani? Siyaphila Nkosi. Notando, okay, we've lost her. I was just going to ask her to switch off the television because it seems like she was also listening to that. But I want us to go back to an issue because the summit was on Monday, and one of the things that came out of there was the Buy Local pledge. Talk to us about that and what this means. It's a pledge of, it's the same thing that was announced and promulgated in October 2011, the local procurement accord, which had a number of signatories, including government, labor, community, and so on and so forth, and proudly say being part of it also in a way, where there was a clear commitment in saying that as business, as government, when you buy those linens in hospitals, when you buy those uniforms for policemen, let us look for local companies in the process of doing that. And that pledge that was signed during the summit was similar to those kind of pledges. But this one is different. It's different because it involves specific sectors, key sectors in different industries, so that, like we did also with manufacturing circle, where the pledge signed with them, we say that we are committed to working with you closely and ensuring that all your businesses in the manufacturing sector, they get this kind of exposure and recognition, and they get uptake of their products by all the buyers in the market, including government and businesses, basically. So the pledge that was signed during the summit was one of those which were saying that we are again committing business, as retail sector, and so on and so forth. We are again recommitting to ensure that whenever we buy, we look at these locally produced goods and services. All of us want to, when we live here, if you've got cars, want to find our cars still where they are outside in the parking. Because if you don't do that, people will engage in all these kind of bad activities because of poverty and so on and so forth. All right. Okay. We do have Mam Charlotte from Phosphorus. Mam Charlotte, welcome to the program. Ndiyaphila mama, kunjani kuwe?
Khona nesisi. Mina bengicela ukubuza la ubaba ukuthi njengoba ugovernment wethu uthola ukuthi kuba nalama events wabafana bafana yonke lezi zinto bese bathenga ngaphandle kanti ngapha siyahlupheka nje vele kunabantu abaxungayo. Why can't they also be supporting our own material, our own qualities lezi esinazo in the country? All right. I think that should also be emphasized ngoba they should be of example to us.
All right.
It's also a big issue. Look, I'm glad that Umama Veza Indo, CEO to advocate SABC has come out, very firmly about it to sports federations and saying that when we are preparing for bigger events, we can't be sourcing, these items, sports items from outside. We must support local companies. It's been on the newspapers about some of them, but some of them have since repented. Look, at some point in time, we had a meeting with South African Rugby Union where there were some agreements in terms of saying that how much of local products can we have? How much of capacity do we have internally to produce and buy these things internally? Same kind of discussion ongoing with other sports federations, but there is willingness, there is commitment, there is, we're moving around it. Right. So we are hopeful that it might get better with time.
Okay, for now, let's take another ad break. Please don't go away. Masiphinde sikwamkele mbukeli sisancokola ke ngokubaleka ukuba abathengi beli bathenga izinto eziveliswe kweli khona ukuze ke kukhule uqoqosho lweli kudaleke namathuba emisebenzi. Into zam kaloku apha studio nguVusisi Thole, Executive Manager for Human Resource and Administration at Proudly SA, as well as Mr. Conrad Bezadenhout, yena ke uphuma kwi-manufacturing circle. Are local producers doing enough in terms of product positioning?
Look, I think that there are certainly some very innovative efforts out there. If I can mention perhaps one that will be known to everybody, Young Designers Emporium, that has brought to the fore local designers, their brands. And we spoke about brands earlier on. We know how people are attracted to it. And there, I think they've done great work in terms of promoting it. But certainly, there are a number of our manufacturers that need to do more, need to be a little bit more innovative on the branding side to really make it appealing for members of the public to prefer it and to be associated with it.
And using the words of Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, that local business needs to recognize that they should play their part in making the products more appealing to South Africans. How important is this?
It's very important because remember, the fact that you are a local product or you own a local product do not necessarily mean that you don't have to do more than what is done by normal business. You are in a competitive market. You need to be able to brand the product properly, sell it, market it, and so on and so forth. All that an advantage it would have as part of what Proudly SA does, in collaboration with its stakeholders and friends and partners, to say that we promote you to get that preference. If there were 3 products that to be considered we bought, the only difference and advantage you have got is yours is local, but still you must do your job. You must market it, brand it properly, understand the concept of of selling and trading is involved in the market as the whole.
All right. How critical is the private sector's role in this fight?
Oh, it is very. A government set a great example by firstly signing the local procurement accord with stakeholders last year. There were commitments made. Government had to designate certain products that they will buy from the local manufacturers. So those 7 categories are known and the regulations are out. There are some problems with implementation, but it started. Now we need the private sector to say, if the state hospitals buy well, they call it oral solids, but the pills really, that the patients must drink, and the private sector comes too, then you've got great economies of scale. But if we turn to the state all the time for the answer and the action, and we don't partner with them, then it's really only half of the effort that is done. So we really need the private sector to buy into the idea of the importance of local manufacturing for our well-being as a country, and to also prefer South African goods along with our private, our consumers.
All right. Comparatively speaking, though, how do we fare as South Africans when it comes to local spending?
Well, we haven't over the last couple of years done that well, and especially not this year. We've lost a lot of jobs since 2008, both because of global demand that has gone down, but there are also less products being bought in our domestic market. A lot of the products that are being bought comes from overseas, and you can see it if you compare our imports into the country with our exports out of the country. You can see that our manufacturing is suffering because we are importing at the moment quite a bit more than we are able to export. And it's a situation that cannot continue for too long before a crisis is going to erupt in our economy.
You did talk about education earlier on. I'm just trying to find out whether we understand the economics of this buying local, create jobs, whether we fully grasp this concept as South Africans.
No, we do. I think we do. I'll tell you, the signing of the local procurement accord that my colleague referred to was a big milestone towards acknowledgement and accepting the fact that unless government takes leadership, and business must follow at some point in time, to say that with the DTI, let's designate some sectors where we know we've got capacity to produce things internally. Let's identify them so that when you buy, we focus on those things as priorities. By the way, the list has extended from 7 to more than that. It's ongoing, it's being revised from time to time. That accord itself, which proudly say is very much part of it in terms of creating awareness, like we do with our road shows. We are going throughout the whole country, different provinces, where we go and say, talk to businesses through business forums, small businesses, and say that small businesses, what are products that we have that needs to be properly marketed? But also, we are going to take these products and list them in the database. Remember, database I'm talking about is part of the local procurement accord. It's one of the deliverables, key commitment that comes from the accord itself. So in that way, we're ensuring that, we bring them into picture. But also, as part of these road shows, we go to malls where people, go and buy, ordinary consumers, and sell this idea of understanding the importance of buying local. Look, with time, we'll make some progress.
All right.
It takes some time.
Let's talk more about those activities. Let's take another ad break. Siyabuya emveni kwalevinki. Welcome back. Let's continue with our discussion. We are talking buy local, but the idea is that this will create jobs. Break this down for us. What does this mean?
Well, I think the best example is probably what I mentioned earlier about the frozen potato chips. So if a producer wants to produce frozen potato chips, they must invest what we call in the upstream activities, that is on the farm. So there needs to be a seed laboratories built, there needs to be loading docks, there needs to be the infrastructure. And the manufacturing makes sure that that infrastructure gets developed. If it wasn't there, then it wouldn't have been. And through those activities, people get employed. But if people stop buying the product, then those employment opportunities will be going away. It won't be there anymore. And you'll have greater degrees of unemployment. So the choices that you make when you stand in the retailer, in the shop where you buy your food and your clothing, it's very, very important because it makes sure that your neighbor or perhaps yourself will have a job or not. If we go into well, let's take Yilungelo, for instance. There's a huge car company there. If people stop buying those cars, those people won't have work. You will have an entire town out of work.
So far, we're still buying those cars.
So far, we're still buying cars because South Africans love buying cars much more than they like buying anything else.
All right. Mr. Sithole, Proudly SA has been running road shows right through. So you've gone to KZN, you've gone to the Western Cape, but do you understand that this program will go through up until next year?
Yes, it is. It's part also of the implementation of the local procurement accord, mostly funded by Economic Development Department again, where we go out and say that it's the same story, buy local to create jobs concept. But also we are also preaching the gospel of saying that as part of the accord, there is commitment by all signatories to the accord to support these local companies. So we roll out these campaigns by our very passionate marketing team. When we go to different provinces, we identify business centers or hubs where we invite all businesses, big or small, and talk to them and explain to them that it's important that even themselves in their own areas, they start understanding the concept of buying from each other, supporting each other, because when they do so, they create sustainability of their own business in their own area. But most importantly, we give education in terms of saying that what opportunities are available to them out of the accord? What sectors have been designated or products for purchasing by government and later on by business? And then after, as I said earlier, after we do the business briefings, we also go to malls where we interact with consumers basically, but also get a sense in terms of what makes them make some decisions. They do. I'll tell you, because our motivation activities, they are quite active. They are quite attractive. There's dancers and singers. We practicalize it to the level that consumers can relate to. But most importantly, that's what we do when we go to provinces. We also roll out what we call Ubuntu Schools campaign, where we go to schools. Remember, when you educate young people from the young ages about the importance of investing in the economy, when they grow up, they understand these kind of things. But besides, you and I know that the key decision makers, in a way, at home, in terms of what we buy, are kids at home. When you talk to them and they understand this concept, then they can be able to make input and say that, Mommy, if there's something with this product, say, look, it means that we are supporting the local economy and so on and so forth. This is what we do as part of the road shows.
All right. Sinayo Nobuhle from KZN. Nobuhle wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Yebo, sisanda njani?
Ngiyaphila, makunjani?
Siphilile sisi. Mina bendicela ukubuza sisi ukuthi singayigwema kani? singayigwema kanjani into yoba kusuke abantu ngaphandle bazodayisa iy'mpahla la bezenza ama-fake, because uyothola ukuthi ikhona impahla kwajet but ithi made in China. So lokho singagwema kanjani ukuthi iy'mpahla kube yiza la.
Kasicacisele ba le nto isebenza njani na?
Look, we have no control in terms of dictating to retailers where they should buy and source whatever product they sell in their shops. We can't control that. All we can do is to provide a platform like we provided in the summit. We say that retailers come together, manufacturers come together. What are the issues? Why are we not talking together such that we avoid this thing of importing and buying everything from outside the country? That's all we can do. But also the other aspect of the question is that how do we manage and control this, illegal dumping of goods from outside the country? We call them Fonkongs, cheap goods and all those kind of things. Look, that is why I said also at some point in time that we work with different enforcement agents to ensure that we confiscate these kind of things. I'll give you an example. The music industry is infested with a lot of piracy of music material. We need to work close with all those organizations that are against that to ensure that we create and sustain the livelihoods of all those people who are in the music industry, basically. That's what we do.
Kasibuyisele kwakhona kumba obuthethe ngawo eqala we-database yenu ukwenzele umuntu ulibele nantoni nesithethileyo namhlanje kodwa bakwazi uqhagamshelana nani.
Mabeya, we proudly say website www.proudlysa.co.za. Kune link ebasa database where any person from wherever they are, they can be able to load the information about their product that they believe has got the required amount of local content or any amount of local content. Obviously, there's a back-end office checkups and verifications of the amount of local content in those products, so that if the government would say that you want to buy for pens, for example, we can be able to quickly and readily give them that this is a list of companies in South Africa which manufactures pens from South Africa and creating jobs. Why do you have to buy expensive packers or pens, whatever it is? We've got pens within the country, and so on and so forth.
All right. Undichazele kwakhona i-benefit yami yokuba ndibe inxalenye yale database.
I-benefit yakho ukuthi ke makuthi anyone ofuna ukuthenga engafuni ukuthenga into ebuya ngaphandle outside the country, then they can use the database. It's even better for Proudly SA members because we don't have to go to trouble of verifying, the genuinity of the information around local content and quality, because Proudly SA members, we check them. We are sure that they've got required local content, they meet the quality standards, and so on and so forth. So that is the situation, basically.
Through the pledge that businesses and government signed on Monday, you see that there's support, you see that this campaign is being pushed. But what still needs to be done? What more can still be done?
Well, we, on the manufacturing circle side, have identified the need for a really strong, what we call above-the-line campaign, that is an advertising campaign, to try not only to speak to consumers, but also to the private sector, to turn around that packet of opinion that is out there that thinks that manufacturing and buying local is not important. So we've approached the DTI in partnership with Proudly SA, have secured an undertaking for a significant amount of funding based on the fact that the private sector will contribute significantly too. So it is key that the private sector becomes a part of this and join hands with us with resources to have a strong buy local campaign, and we're hoping to launch as early as February next year.
Again, your organization is urged to continuously improve ways to develop and identify unique selling points of South African goods so that consumers do find these appealing than imported goods. Again, umsebenzi wenu usukela ngoku nizabe nisenza ntoni?
We obviously are not in the space of, of creativity around, the products and so on and so forth. All you can do is to identify key stakeholders who can ensure, including the retail and manufacturing sector, that we identify critical key points of sales so that we avail these kind of things. I'll give an example. One of our member companies dedicated a section of only Proudly SA products, so that when you walk in this shop, I'm not ashamed to say that Clicks has done that. When you walk to Clicks, you would find a section dedicated strictly to Proudly SA products, so that when you go inside there, you can identify with ease, these kind of products and support them, basically. We work with different partners to ensure that we identify key selling points and then promote these areas and our members in terms of ensuring that their products, they do indeed get to those key selling points. Airports are very important. You land at the airport, you find all these kind of shops there. Some of them, they sell Proudly SA goods, and you are sometimes not even sure whether it's Proudly SA or not, or it's Hong Kong, because everything is Hong Kong these days. There are things that comes inside the country What happens to them when they get inside there? They just change the label of origin to made in South Africa to give that impression and so on and so forth. So it's a big battle, but that needs everyone to be part of and fight with us.
All right, singena kwi holiday season abantu bazabe beyothenga siyaqukumbela ngoku ufuna uthini
Christmas masonto Christmas isikhathi sokuthanda nokuthandana nemndeni yethu sithenga izipho, we buy gifts for our families, for our friends and all that. I cannot say how much of locally produced gifts that you can get within South Africa. Locally produced things. You don't have to get these things that are outside. Yes, we are not saying that you must not buy some of these gadgets that are not produced within the country, but there's much more things that you can get and buy. Companies, towards the end of their businesses, when they buy corporate gifts for their stakeholders, they must start inside there. We have got that list.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up. Just as we close, your message to South Africans, especially in supporting this Buy Local campaign.
Yes, I think, one of the payoff lines that we're working with for our campaign next year is Buy Local, Create Jobs, and that really is what it is about. So it would be great if consumers, if they're out there and they make the decisions when they stand in front of the shelf, look out for that product that is being manufactured here, because it does put money back in your pocket at the end of the day.
All right. And on that note, we've come to the end of today's program. I would like to thank my guests for coming through to speak to us. Please join us again next week for another Consumer Affairs Topic of the Week from 1:30 in the afternoon to 2:30. Please tune in to the same channel from 9:30 ukuya ke ku 10:30 ngemivulo. Ukanti xa ufuna ukuvakalisa izimvo zakho ngenkqubo zethu ungasithumelela email ku consumer@sabc.co.za or send us a fax to 011-714-6420. Alternatively, visit our Facebook page, Yilungelo Lakho, or follow us on Twitter @Yilungelo. From me, Sisanda Jonas, and the whole team, it's goodbye. Nibe nexesha elimnandi.